Okay, we got Parliament going on today. We got the volume up for too loud. Going to see what's happening there. Oh, I guess that I got to change that text. Um, Basically, what do we have here? We got a lot going on with politics. 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, it's been shut down, right? Um, Mark Carney was just in Toronto today, doing some grocery deal that basically someone whoever gets GST checks back. I don't know about you, but I don't I don't get it. But apparently, it's going to be increased 25% in 5 years. So I guess 5% a year. It's going to be increased to individuals who receive the GST. Um, but here's a spoiler alert. They just made a deal with the soya. The soya with China kind of had to be done because our amount of soya that we produce in this country is more than what we'll need. So it has to go to some other country that could that eats a lot of soy. So it's had to go to China or somewhere like that. And I guess Premier Mo had been complaining and been saying that it's been very difficult to sell that. They have a bunch of offices around, so the soy was a problem. But they also sold a beef. I'm not sure on the details on it, to be honest. But they made a beef and soy deal. So that means beef is going to go up. Probably beef will increase. Like I said, I didn't see the details, so it could be just a very minute amount, but more likely it'll increase. But with beef sales going to China, supply and demand, folks. So once we sell more to a place that'll pay more, China can't, they can't grow enough beef in that country, so they'll have higher prices than here, right? So most likely we're going to see beef go up a lot more than other food items. That you'll have to watch. And like I said, I'm going to look at the deal closer. The 49,000 cars is an issue. Let me know if you can hear me or not. I'm going to talk anyway. So 49,000 cars. It's about 5%. It will get up to 9% of cars, and it'll all be the cheaper cars, most likely. But we don't know because China also sells high-end cars at a very good price. There's a $100,000 car that goes like Mach, So, though it isn't much, but 9%. Say if it gets up to 12% of our cars being, that's quite a bit. That would be actually. I know that obviously the car industry is not happy with it. Doug Ford, he was I would say muted a bit about it, but it seems well, we'll see. I'm going to try to be nice and gentle with it today, but this first year, if we look at the last year, speeds that we haven't seen, there hasn't been much very good news the Liberals have put forward. Like I said, we're going to start doing a full assessment, really getting back into it, and looking to see where we're at. Measurable items. The throwing out some money. Food's going to go up, so they're going to give some people, 12 million people, a bit of extra money. Great. They're going to import cars. We're probably going to lose good-paying jobs. At the same time, I didn't see much power plans. The Wab Kinew, I believe he is the top premier we have of the country right now for his province. Mo would be a close second. And I'm not saying anything at Daniel Smith or Ford or Houston or Holtz. And then there's a new guy in Newfoundland who I'm not sure. But not saying against any of the others, but Wab Kinew has been really pushing brilliant ideas, and he's saying Churchill will be. He wants to set up Churchill, Manitoba, which is right up on Hudson Bay. There's James Bay and then Hudson Bay. and it's a deep water port. He's trying to get that set up as the place to the Arctic, and he keeps saying it. How do we weave our country together? How do we stop America from starting to encroach on us? After Trump, there's going to be decades and decades, and if we don't open up and assist the people in the North, the Americans will. The Americans, if they're going to go into Greenland, their bases up north in Alaska are growing. So if a city and the towns up there start receiving all American ships and American, we're going to lose sovereignty, the power, and all this stuff. Remember, like all these places up in the Arctic, up north, they're diesel powered. The whole town is powered by diesel. So he has a plan. He has some power that he was selling to Minnesota. The contract was over. He's saying that power is available to go up in the Arctic. It's been a year since they've been elected, and there hasn't been anything on it. I just feel that the speeds are not coming. There's been a pretty good deal with the UAE. I'll give it that. Deal with Qatar. Again, I haven't looked at all these details. Let me know what you think about these things. There's this bill, this law bill. There's some good things in it, I believe. It's a lot of points. There's some other things that just, it's a slippery slope. Some of them are slippery slope. It's just too easy to say something now, and then to destroy. It's a very I think there's some parts of this, whereas they're not. The real problem is, I would say, in Canada, you look at the deaths, and the highest amount of deaths is coming from fentanyl, and there is nothing on fentanyl. You've been in power a year. The number one killers, more people have died of fentanyl than World War II. So, we say all these things, oh, yeah, this bad person. We actually have a killer in our country shipped from other shores that are killing more people than World War II. And we're worrying about things that, they put a lot of effort into it. It's been in power a year, and this is what they focus on. It's just the same as the Biden. And I like Biden as a person, and a lot of the things he did, but the Biden on the border, when the Democrats said, there's nothing we can do, they're just lying, because in 3 days when Trump got in, it was over. And this fentanyl issue, I believe, is the exact same thing. They're just not they know what they need to do, but they're just not going to do it. They don't see it as a problem that's worthy of it. But they do believe in conflating other things, other crimes that are, like I said, the bill has about 30 or 40 different line items. And there's one item is cruel and unusual punishment that's not defined. So we have judges that can define it, right? Exactly the conservative member, MP Brock, said, you're going to allow an activist judge to define something. It's not even defined. What's cruel and unusual? Behavior. What is that? You know what I mean? I honestly have no idea what that would be. And I don't agree with it, obviously. But if you're going to make a law and you're going to put someone away, you have to define what the heck this is. Or you're going to use this on the basis of putting someone away or what? It's just very, very vague. And it leads to troubles. I believe that this needs to go to a committee. And it has to have both sides of the evidence. I don't see this. I see this as just another quagmire pushing leftist agenda when this government, I believe, is on their last leg. They have this year, and Pierre has to get his act together with the policies that are actually blue-collar focused. You can't be a conservative, I believe, in my opinion here. I don't know nothing. It can't be being a conservative value only. He has to be a populist. He has to look for the blue-collar class. As we know, 80% of the money in the 70s was in the hands of the middle class. Now that 80%, the 80% of the cash is on the top 5% earners. It's a problematic system that needs to be fixed, or else. When you have all the money at the top, you're susceptible to barbarian diplomacy, and that's something defined. The CCP defined it. You can actually Google it, and you'll see their definition of it. It's unbelievable. And that type of diplomacy works when you have a top-heavy government people in charge, and you don't have to be in the government. If you have $40 billion in this country, you don't have to be an MP to have major influence. So this is what happens, and it makes us susceptible. And there's been nothing, in my opinion. I'm trying to give the Liberals as much as possible, but there's been nothing that they've done, zero that they've done, except they built this housing committee that hasn't built a house. Housing starts went down this year, and they haven't done any builds or anything like that. And what I have seen that they have done is for wealthy individuals. It's the investors. It's a housing problem that they're helping investors fix. The country, it needs real leadership for the masses. We don't need leadership for the wealthy, and I honestly don't think the Liberals get it now. They think that they did. I don't know. I shouldn't be so close on judgment, but it's been a year, and more deaths of fentanyl that hasn't gone down. They made the borders are under duress, and so I haven't seen him being put forward. Our fentanyl deaths are going up. Crime of that is going up. I guess a lot of crimes are going down. We can't even stop auto theft. That's not in this bill. This seems to me. Anyway, I digress. The Conservatives could have this government down, and go to election in 6 months. If they get their act together, get some policies for the working class, and forget about their donors and stuff like that, they could easily, because this government, this conservative liberal government, has had a year, and they're having problems with Trump. There's not a niceties going on here, so they have a very, and then the day they come back, they have I say half this bill is there's good policies, and then the other half is they're pushing an agenda, and the leftist agenda that they're pushing at this time is not popular with the populace. Like here in Europe, they're doubling down, which to me it makes no sense. And like I said, half of the bill, I believe, I'm going to talk about it later. Though I digress again, this 6 months. The Conservatives really need to buckle down and put out a platform for the working class. And the old traditional way of conservatism, which Trump blew up. I don't like that word in politics anymore. Which Trump destroyed the old Republican Party. When he took off overtime tax, old age security taxes, the old Republican Guard were not liking it. He said, well, it's a new party. That's it. It's new. You don't like it? That's fine. This is what the party is going forward. And this is what Pierre will also have to fight if he wants to get elected. He's going to have these people that are saying, oil, don't you put a hydro dam. Don't you give lower taxes to the working class. Don't do any of these things. We want these issues. We want you to focus on oil. We want you, yeah. But he has to say, you know what? Yeah, but I need to get elected. And he'll never get elected. In this climate now with Venezuela oil going to the States, oil, China, actually, of all countries, I believe, has just made oil, about 6 months ago, they made oil obsolete. We just don't know it yet. But all the Middle Eastern countries have done a major pivot on their oil. They're doing heavy investments on other items. Yeah, we'll have natural gas, which will turn to hydrogen and all these things. It'll be going, we'll be able to be pumping oil for the next 60, 70 years. But it being one of the top earners worldwide is not happening, because China is now producing cars that about half the world is buying it up because they're cheaper, that don't need any, except to make it. But they don't need the oil. And Argentina, Colombia, England, Europe, all of these countries, Kazakhstan, the Middle East, and different things, of course in China. The majority of places where they're buying their growing economies, they're not doing well because they don't have. First of all, the countries don't care if they don't have an auto sector. They're not going to bother protecting the oil industry, and so if they don't have that, and if they don't have any oil in that country, they don't. A country's politicians don't care about the oil. We have both, so we do care about it. I understand. I'm not in for closing it down. I'm just talking about reality, and the reality is China made these cars, and they're not so cheap yet, but they have a mega factory that's coming out, and this mega factory is the size of San Francisco, the factory. And so economies of scale are going to mean they're going to be able to, I think they're going to do it slowly, but they're going to slowly make these cars cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until they're $5,000 cars, throwaways, we'll call them. And that's most likely, we're talking 5-year time, like in 10 years. Anyway, I think it's just my opinion is a party that'll be stuck to oil on a slowly, it's time to reinvest in other things, is my opinion. And if you want to get elected, most people see this. This isn't coming from them, construction. But if you want to get elected, you have to show the future, not talk about what happened in the past. And I think that's what the Liberals are doing. They're fighting the battles of yesterday with a couple of the bills that are coming out, and they're not moving forward in a bold way, which I think is why they got elected, to deal with Trump, which we're going to find out. See, the Liberals I believe, now I say all this stuff, I don't know nothing. The Liberals have Kuzma. They will most likely be the government dealing with Kuzma. So that's going to be happening, July, October. It should be finished or finalized or whatever, or done, and that will be that's basically the end of their tenure. I don't think it's going to go well. I honestly do not think it's going well for Canada in this CUSMA deal. The free trade on it. I see it not going well. I hope I'm wrong. But I think that'll be the final thing with the Liberal government. They'll make a not a great deal with the Americans, or they'll give up something, and it'll be the final curtain, unless they do well. But see, that will have to be a change from what the last 10 years are. And then this last year, there was just nothing. They just set up boards. Now, the problem, I believe, this is I thought that Carney, and I again, I hope I'm wrong. You set up boards. That's what lawyers do. That's what the upper court, set up a board. We're going to just study the issue. We're going to give you $50, $7 for your money, placate you. And these placates, they're not going to work anymore. I think we're so far beyond that. And then dividing everybody in Canada, no, we're not America. The idea of this male and female hating each other, I don't know. We're not there in Canada. Even like, I don't want to call them right-wingers, but heavy construction guys are not a heavy construction guy in even Europe. We're just more, you know what I mean? They'll even listen to a little bit of poetry. It's a different animal. It's not an issue, I believe, in Canada. As even in, like I said, even in Europe, they're more chauvinistic is, I guess, the word. But they're pushing in that, that they're using that to divide. I don't believe it's going to work. I think that this is a silly issue. If they continue to push this stuff, right? Making laws with new terms that are undefined. That's the issue I have. It's not, you know what I mean? We protect people, protect the vulnerable. But making up people kind has already, they've been doing it for 10 years. Like, I don't understand, and I think they know they're at their end, and they think that this worked before, so they just rinse and repeat. And rinse and repeat is a good government tactic, but I think that they've made mistakes. I don't even think there's any, I don't even know if there's any motion. But I'm going to get my hat on. And it's starting, so All right. We're rolling. She's talking quite. I'm going to a few more minutes. Here we go. I don't know where my mouse is. Oh, there it is. Thanks for watching. Like I said, I don't know what Pierre's talking points are going to be. I can't hear you if you are talking. But I do hope that he sees blue-collar issues and tells his donors, listen, you have to let my rhetoric go. And blue-collar issues. And the problem is the conservative housing fix wouldn't fix it. It would probably be 20 years when it gets fixed. You can't rely on companies to fix a problem that government created. And the government created it, our government created it by bringing in more people and not alleviating the stressors on builders. That's it. It's not the people that came here. Jeez, it's the government that did this, and they're like, well, we're just going to leave it alone. So what happens when you get a 50-year-old like me, an old dirty guy, into his wedding pants? What happens? It's pretty freaking tight. That's all that happened. And they didn't go to the tailors and measure it out. No, they're like, no. The biggest problem with that is that they just won't. They didn't put money for the blue collar. They gave money to billions of dollars to Stellantis, to this company, but giving which they needed to do to alleviate the problem. And I understand we're not our population was shrinking because we're not breeding as much. Obviously, the West, everyone knows that every country that's going west is having a population growth problem, and that has to do with optimism. If you're optimistic, you usually have children. You get together, but the West, all of the West, Korea is the worst example of it. Korea is shrinking population, and they turned west. North Korea is growing, right? And it has to do with optimism. It's funny. You go to North Korea, you look at North Korea, and it doesn't look like, maybe it's because they have less to do. I don't know. Maybe it's we're more occupied. Maybe there are other issues, but the basic, like the Crucian people say, society breathes in and it breathes out. And our Western society right now, all around the board is aging and breathing out. We're not. You can't deny that fact that we're on a downturn. Indonesia. That's a country that's growing. Optimistic. Their leader I have a lot of respect for. He's doing a lot of good things, building schools, opening up his country, and this. He just can't. He flew to London before he went to Davos, and he said, I think it was like 68 companies, 68 mining companies, and we all know what happens. These companies went over. And there's a lot of natural resources in that country, volcanoes and stuff, and islands. So it's easy, narrow islands, so it's easy to get to. So they could make money off of that. And he's saying this is protected forest, and they're cutting it down for profits, not what their permit was. So this, shady companies. Yes. And for the first time in their history, I think, they have a leader. At least they have a leader that's solid in place. We'll say that. They have a first time in their history with a solid leader in place who can say, no, we will not put up with this. There's a lot of money in their coffers. They're starting to be able. They are. They just did it. They just canceled their mining permits. Done. And he went to London to announce it because they were, that's where they were being traded. And of course, he didn't. There's no charges or anything. He didn't do anything extreme, so investors will still go back because he said they were doing things that they weren't permitted to do. He didn't do something like what Venezuela did. Venezuela went and Chevron. They just took their stuff. They took their oil rigs and everything. Excuse me. They took their oil rigs, and obviously, then all went bad. Venezuela didn't. He says they can re-permit, blah blah blah, but That's a big country. That's a country to focus on, I think. And that part of the world, to be honest, is a very big growing part. We have a bunch of free trade deals with them. We have a very major problem in Canada. We can't build homes in this country that are reasonable. I know. I'm in Niagara Falls. The homes that they're building, the 3-story homes, are huge. These huge homes, and it's not. And the Conservatives are relying on a company. A company is just going to build big homes because when there's a house, when there's demand, the top need homes, like the top price homes need homes as well. So what am I going to build for? Every square foot extra I build, I make more money on that. Kind of, as you build 100 square feet home costs more per square feet than 1,000 square foot home because all the, you know what I mean? It's cheaper as you go bigger because it's just an extra, you know what I mean? 16 on center, a little extra walls. Whereas the plumbing and electrical and all these major services and sewer, they're a major big cost. And the permitting. We just need a major. I think it has to be like $100 billion. Minimum is probably $200 billion. They actually need to put into housing. None of these governments are putting in it. The Conservatives have a plan that isn't exciting. I don't know anyone who likes it, to be honest. Let's hear them.
Change at breathtaking speed the values that truly matter. Partnership, resilience, and care for one another can endure and still give us hope and optimism for what lies ahead. Colleagues, please join me as I congratulate my parents on 65 years of space travel, smartphones, and surviving each other.
The honourable member for Guelph.
I rise to honor a hero.
Yeah, I got long hair. This is the last day of my long hair.
Bill joined the Army at 18 and trained as a gunner at Petawawa, but when he deployed to London, England, new recruits were made infantry. Bill became a Regina rifleman without training, was sent to the front in France. He fought through France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, then served as a reconnaissance scout in Germany. By quickly returning a grenade, Bill saved his platoon at Leopold Canal. In peace as in war, Bill's service and kindness never wavered. He gave his all to his family and community and his comrades at the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 234, where he was a member for 78 years. In 2024, Bill proudly represented the Reginas at the unveiling of a rifleman statue in Normandy with Her Royal Highness Princess Anne. On May 3rd, 2025, he celebrated his 100th birthday at the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands. Seeing this country peaceful touched him deeply. On December 22nd, Bill passed away. William Joseph Seifert, Canada thanks you. We remember.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Today, I rise in solidarity with the brave people of Iran. Over the past few weeks, hundreds of thousands of Canadians have joined solidarity rallies across the country, including in Richmond Hill, where tens of thousands have gathered braving the cold winter storms to stand on the side of freedom. In recent weeks, tens of thousands of Iranians have been massacred, with many more injured and arrested by a regime that rules through fear. Fear of speaking, assembly, and simply being free. And yet, despite the executions, the beatings, the blackouts, and the bullets, the Iranian people continue to stand. They refuse to be silenced, knowing the cost, but believing freedom is worth it. The regime can shut down the internet, but it cannot shut down courage. It can imprison demonstrators, but it cannot imprison hope. Yet here at home, the Liberals offer empty words instead of action. To the people of Iran, you are not alone. The world sees you. Canada's Conservatives and Canadians stand with you. Your struggle is just. Your sacrifice will not be in vain, and your future belongs to you, not the tyrants. Today, the world watches. Tomorrow rises a free Iran, and an Iran whose future belongs to its people.
I would remind the member we're not supposed to be using props.
He had a prop. If you've seen the prop there, that was good. That was a good speech.
Good afternoon. After a few weeks in our ridings and a break from parliamentary business, we're back in the House of Commons, ready for a new year of work. I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a very happy new year. In 2025, we delivered tangible results, a more resilient economy, strategic investments to strengthen our industries, and clear measures to protect Canada's interests. We've chosen to take action. and we are strengthening our economic sovereignty. And we are supporting innovation here at home. As we begin this session, the message is simple. We will continue to invest, continue to protect our country.
It's dusty in my corner. I haven't been here for a while.
With
it's
a
like
strong Canada.
5 weeks of dust. Filthy!
Prince Albert.
Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe for not letting the Prime Minister sacrifice canola and pulse producers. Saskatchewan farmers know that market access to China has been low on the list of priorities for these Liberals. Thankfully, the Premier understands the simple truth. If you want to grow the Canadian economy, you must sell to the world. While the Premier is doing his part, the same cannot be said about this Liberal government. Trade deals are as strong as logistic networks supporting them. Exporters continue to face congested ports, limited rail capacity, and aging infrastructure. Years of underinvestment and regulatory delays have made Canada an unreliable supplier in the eyes of our trading partners. If the Prime Minister truly believes in expanding access to global markets, he must commit to serious, sustained modernization of our ports, rails, and export infrastructure. Saskatchewan knows how to sell to the world. The government must now do its part to expand markets.
The honourable member for Kanata.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today
Yes,
to
I second it. I like this.
extraordinary courage of the Iranian people who continue to stand for their dignity, their freedoms, and their fundamental right to determine their own future. The Iranian regime's brutal use of violence, arbitrary detention, and intimidation against peaceful protesters must end. Here in Canada, many Iranian Canadians are watching these events unfold and are heartbroken, worried for loved ones, grieving for those lost, and longing for a future free from fear. Canada's position is unequivocal. We condemn the Iranian regime's ongoing abuses and are in close coordination with our international partners to hold those responsible to account. To the people of Iran and to Iranian communities here in Canada, you are not alone. Canada stands with you. We hear your voices and we will not look away. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think Canada should send some Navy ships because there's a potential for American embargo, and it would help to be there.
Tens of thousands of Canadians have been reaching out to members of Parliament over the winter break, telling the Liberals to set aside their divisive and toxic Bill C-9 and to stand up for the fundamental rights and freedoms of Canadians. I am pleased to report that today at the Justice Committee, we were finally able to get the Liberals to agree to set aside this divisive bill and focus on addressing real crime affecting communities across the country. Canadians have been demanding real action, fixing the broken Liberal bail system, addressing the rise in car thefts and extortion, going after people that are wreaking havoc on streets in this country, not people who dare to express a religious belief the government finds objectionable. Conservatives stand ready as always and look forward to working to fix this broken justice system in Canada. I'm glad the Liberals finally joined us.
I gained a lot of respect from this MP. He had a speech about his previous troubles. I'm sorry about this guy. But he had a rough time, and he spoke about it, and it was heartfelt. It was about he wanted to do self-harm. It was a speech. Lots for words. I am.
And enforcing the Charter of the French language. He chaired the Société Saint-Jean-Baptiste in Montreal, where I had the honor of working alongside him. He represented our nation as Quebec's delegate to Japan, then as a member of the Bloc Québécois here in Ottawa. Jean Dorion fought for his entire life for our language and culture, and for a Quebec that would reach out to everyone. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer my condolences to his wife, to his 5 children, and to all of the independence activists who are carrying on his fight to make Quebec a country. The Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier.
I rise today to welcome members back to this House and mark the beginning of the new year. We are living in a time of profound global uncertainty. International rules are being challenged, long-standing institutions are under strain, and we are witnessing the emergence of power vacuums and growing instability across regions. In moments like these, Canada must be clear about who we are and what we stand for.
It's filthy over here. Filthy!
of nations. Mr. Speaker, residents in my riding of Honoré Mercier have been clear that Canada or Greenland or Denmark belong to them and to them alone. We must stand firm in defense of our sovereignty. Canada will always remain a proud independent nation because, as Prime Minister reminded us, we have the capacity to build our strength at home and to act together. And Canada thrives because we are Canadian. I call on all members of this House to act together to defend Canada's sovereignty. Thank you.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Prime Minister recently flew to Davos, where he spoke to global elites at the World Economic Forum, and he said that a country unable to feed itself, fuel itself, and defend itself has few options. Here at home, Canadians need action, not carefully crafted speeches. Food inflation is up over 6%, and a record number of Canadians line up to use a food bank every single month despite those empty words. The Liberals fast-tracked Bill C-5 to get major projects built, and yet nothing has been built, and the hope of a pipeline is fading very fast. Our armed forces are under-equipped and are in the midst of a recruiting crisis after 10 years of woke Liberal policies. Talk is cheap, Mr. Speaker. Canadians deserve real action, not carefully crafted words for the elites at Davos.
The honourable member for Milton East, Halton Hills South.
Mr. Speaker, recently I held a town hall in my riding to discuss our government's proposed legislation on public safety, including Bill C-14. This discussion was frank, emotional, and deeply personal. What was clear is that my constituents want action. They are concerned about public safety, they expect results, and they expect Parliament to do its job. Many residents ask why progress has stalled and why bills remain tied up in committee. They are frustrated, and they are right to be. Our government is responding to real concerns raised by communities, victims, and law enforcement. The delays are occurring in committee where an opposition party has chosen obstruction over collaboration. Prolonged procedural delays and filibustering do not make communities safer. They do not help victims. They do not reflect the urgency that Canadians are demanding. Canadians are asking us to work together and to deliver results. Bill C-14 is one important step towards strengthening public safety, and it deserves to move forward. It's time for the opposition to work constructively in committee so Parliament can deliver the action our communities are demanding.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
While the Prime Minister delivered her speech pointing out the gaps between rhetoric and reality on the world stage, the reality here at home is that Canadians can't eat speeches. Our food inflation is the highest in the G7, and the bill is in. Food costs are now up 6.2%, with groceries up 5%, and restaurant meals up 8.5% year over year. The PM's $78 billion deficit has turned Canada into the food inflation capital of the G7. Instead of delivering affordability, he insists on blaming tariffs from the U.S., which don't even apply to food costs in Canada. A quarter of Canadian households are considered food insecure, with over 2 million people visiting food banks in Canada monthly. And now it is estimated that a family of 4 will pay $1,000 more this year to eat. One thing is clear. Only Canada's Conservatives will put an end to Liberals' food inflation.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to wish all of my colleagues a good start to the new session. I took advantage of this break to return to my riding of Longueuil Saint-Hubert to meet with businesses and community organizations. And everyone was very clear with us. They said continue to govern responsibly and coherently, even if that takes courage. They said, we're proud of you, please continue the excellent work. And they said that to the Prime Minister. I would also like to take the opportunity to underline an unfortunate event. Last Friday, we learned that the former Member of Parliament, Jean Dorion, had died. He represented the riding of Longueuil-Pierre Boucher at the time, which is now Longueuil Saint-Hubert. Regardless of political allegiance, we all recognize his commitment to public service. Thank you.
Overdale Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has basically just admitted he's failing on affordability. It's so bad, he just had to announce another temporary boost to the GST credit. If prices were actually under control, Canadians wouldn't need another recycled Trudeau-era rebate to put food on the table. Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Food bank use is at record levels, with millions of Canadians relying on emergency food just to feed their family. A tax rebate helps momentarily, but does nothing to address what is actually driving food costs. Carbon taxes on fuel and fertilizer. Clean fuel standard, industrial carbon taxes built into every step of the supply chain. The Prime Minister once told Canadians to judge his government by the price of the grocery store, but that measures his policies have failed miserably, and no tax gimmick can hide.
The honourable member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Canada's National Heritage Fair winners. Projects that highlight the curiosity and learning among our youth across this nation. One of the winning projects by Cora Lukman focused on women in farming. It celebrates the strength, the leadership, and the legacy of women in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, picture a young girl holding a bag of PEI potatoes, grown by her aunt in North Lake, packed by her grandfather just down the road, and sold by another aunt in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. This farm-to-table supply chain is rooted in family tradition that has sustained a seventh-generation farming family for over 150 years in PEI. Her grandfather summed it up best. He said, "My daughters are smart, they care about the land, and they work hard." That's what makes a good farmer. Today, 1 in 3 farmers in Canada are women. Wow. And more than half of all new farmers in Atlantic Canada are women. They're shaping the future of Canadian agriculture and inspire the next generation.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians deserve affordable groceries.
Okay, he's on groceries.
We have learned that food inflation in Canada is by far the highest in the G7. It's growing twice as fast as in the U.S., and food inflation has doubled since this Prime Minister came to power. These are, if it truly were external factors behind this, we wouldn't be the worst in the G7. When will the Prime Minister reverse his deficit inflationary taxes so that Canadians can have affordable groceries? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be back, and this Monday we have good news. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefits will help 12 million Canadians. And my Conservative friends are happy in their hearts, Mr. Speaker, because they know this represents roughly $1,800 for a family of 4 and roughly $950 for a single person this year. The Liberals support this and Canadians do. Will the Conservatives do as well?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, after food inflation has doubled under this Prime Minister, and with the worst food inflation in the G7, the checks that the Liberals are announcing today won't even pay for just one grocery shop. Yes, the reality is that the average family will have to spend $17,000 a year for grocery costs. When will the Prime Minister reverse his taxes and inflationary deficits so that Canadians can eat? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, first and above all, we would like to all express our solidarity with the Leader of the Opposition in this decisive week for him. I am certain he'll be able to convince a majority of his constituents to support his leadership. Second, we welcomed his openness with respect to the legislative measures before this House, and there is a bill that is the Prime Minister's plan for our economy to create jobs and opportunities in Canada. Can he give us a date when we'll be able to vote third reading of the Budget Implementation Act?
Canadians deserve affordable groceries, but under this Prime Minister's watch, food price inflation is the highest in the G7. It's twice as high as in the States, twice as high as when he took office. He can't blame global factors when it's rising faster than any other G7 country. The real cause is his rising taxes on farmers.
I'm going to allow the honourable
Yeah,
leader of the
lots of heckling.
to start that question over.
Yeah, there's a lot of heckling. The Liberals are getting it heavy.
It started over there. The honourable member of the opposition. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Speaker, the Canadian people deserve affordable groceries. Liberals might laugh that off, but they've given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. It's rising twice as fast here in Canada as in the United States of America. 2.2 million people lined up at food banks. And since this Prime Minister said that he would make groceries affordable, the inflation rate has actually doubled. Will the Prime Minister finally reverse his inflationary deficits and taxes so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we certainly want to wish the Leader of the Opposition well in this very decisive and important week for him, and we know that he will have success at his party's convention.
Best of luck. We're rooting for you.
The Prime Minister's plan to grow our economy, to create $1 trillion in investment, and to protect our workers and our industries from trade threats is before this House, Bill C-15. Now, we take very, very well the Leader's openness on working with us on legislation. Can he give us a date, just a date, the next words out of his mouth, give us the date where we can have third reading on the BIA, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of solidarity, why won't they agree with the Canadian people that we should get rid of all the hidden taxes that they've imposed on groceries? There's the Liberal fuel standard tax, which is 7 cents a litre on farmers, truckers, and those who bring us our food. There's the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer. All of this has given Canada the worst food price inflation in the G7. Our food costs are rising twice as fast as in the United States of America, and now they promise to recycle a Trudeau-era rebate that won't even cover one trip to the grocery store, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I know that it's a particularly challenging week for the Leader of the Opposition, but let me help him because today we have good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. It's called the Canada Grocery and Essentials Benefit, Mr. Speaker. I know in his heart he's rejoicing, Mr. Speaker, because he's been asking questions in this House. Now we have delivered for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The real question, all the Liberals MP are going to vote in favor. Canadians are in favor. Will the Conservative be good for their work and vote with us to help Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Only the Liberals would look at the $17,600 that the average family has to spend on groceries and say that it's a time to rejoice. They say that Canadians should be grateful that to be lined up in record numbers at the food bank. They think Canadians should thank them for having the highest food inflation in the G7, twice as bad as the United States of America. They think that Canadians should give Liberals gratitude for having double food price inflation since this Prime Minister was elected, promising to be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Why won't they reverse their Liberal taxes and debt so we can...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, it's a good news for Canadians who are struggling today. In fact, up to $1,900 more for a Canadian family to help with those costs of living that the Conservatives have been talking about all fall, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the MP from Edmonton, Manning, told a story about Enid, who is struggling with the cost of groceries. Is he going to vote against Enid's desire to have more money to buy groceries?
Wow. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is that Eden is paying, and his family are paying a record high price. If Eden is part of a family of 4, that family will spend over $17,000 on groceries this year. That's $1,000 more than they did last year. That's the fastest increase in the G7. And now, the Prime Minister has revived a Trudeau-era rebate, which will let pass, that will barely cover a few trips to the grocery store, while the average family spends $17,000 plus. Why doesn't the Liberals stop increasing grocery prices by getting rid of their inflationary deficits and taxes on food?
The food problem in Canada, a lot of things is competition. Part of it,
concern about the week ahead. But let me quote the letter he sent us on January 24th, Mr. Speaker. We wouldn't assume
there needs to be more incentives to sell in Canada.
If you have other ideas that make food affordable,
more companies.
We will fast track them, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have good news for him. It's going
secondary
to and essentials benefit, Mr. Speaker.
Markets.
12 million Canadians. The question we have on this side, will he stand up in this House? Will he be good for his word and support 12 million Canadians that are expecting this government and this House to support them?
The honourable member for Saint-Jean.
There isn't much of government
Speaker,
really we need them
Quebecers
to
and
do
French
for the average
Canadians
people.
learned
Keep
something
food
new
and
last
keep
Thursday.
homes at reasonable
According
prices.
to the Prime Minister, the
And
Battle
the
of the
rest
Plains
let's
of
play
Abraham
with.
was not a conquest by the English, it was the beginning of a great
No,
partnership.
that's
According to him, the ancestors of Quebecers and English Canadians rose from the battlefield that morning and said to each other, guys, let's stop fighting, celebrate our differences, and build Canada. Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister wants to create some new heritage minutes, will he review his history rather than rewrite it? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, English Canadians and French Canadians built a very great country, one that is the best in the world. We created great prosperity and mutual respect for our official languages and human rights, Mr. Speaker. No one, not the Bloc, will minimize this accomplishment. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to work with what concerns Quebecers, i.e. affordability, job creation, prosperity creation together, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, if you listen to the Prime Minister, when French was banned from being taught in the Maritimes, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, in Alberta, and in Ontario, it wasn't to erase us, no.
French was
bring
banned?
us together. When Quebecers were
Really?
excluded
I
from
can't believe
power
that.
and business, it was for their own good. When the
What did you
founder of
say?
Canada said that Louis Riel would be hanged even if all the dogs in Quebec barked in his favor, we just misrepresented his love of pooches. Mr. Speaker, when is this Prime Minister going to learn our history for real? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, she's talking to a Government House Leader that is the proud ancestor of Scottish immigrants who studied in French in Prince Edward Island, who did his undergrad at the Acadian University in Moncton, and who lives his life in French, and who was elected 4 times in a riding that is 90% francophone. That is possible in Canada when we have mutual respect between Anglophones and Anglophones, and we're the best country in the world.
That was like I didn't expect to have that reply. That reply was like, yeah, that was good. McKinnon's pretty good. She's like, oh, geez, really? She didn't know that.
There's a reason why these questions are being asked in a parliament here in Ottawa. It's because English speakers preferred to burn down the parliament in Montreal rather than compensate French Canadians who had their farms burned during the 1837 rebellion. What a terrible partnership. The Liberal lieutenant from Quebec defended the Prime Minister by saying that it was just a different perspective on history. Well, history is facts, not opinions. So instead of defending these alternative facts from the Prime Minister, will we teach him our history? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I've noticed that my Bloc colleagues were talking about history, but I can tell you one thing that Canadians want to talk about and Quebecers want to talk about. That's talking about their city. Right now, those people in my riding in Quebec, they want a government that is building the future. They want investment and support for families because Quebecers' first priority is affordability. And today, we're showing up with the Canadian grocery benefit to put food on the table. We'll always be here to defend Quebec and Quebecers.
Regina Capel.
The Prime Minister asked to be judged on inflation on grocery prices. Well, food inflation has doubled to the highest in the G7 and has doubled the U.S. rate. This is a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes on farmers, fertilizer and food processors, and rampant inflationary deficits. Today's recycled Trudeau-era rebate will barely cover one trip to the store for the average family. They now need to spend over $17,000 a year on groceries. It didn't work when Trudeau tried it. Prices kept rising. There's nothing in today's announcement that will make anything cost less. So instead of temporary measures, why not permanently scrap Liberal hidden taxes that drive up food costs?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that leader focuses on hanging on to his leadership, we're focused on affordability for Canadians. Our new groceries and essentials benefit will help more than 12 million Canadians with food inflation. That's $1,900 for a family of four, Mr. Speaker. It's time for the Conservatives. It's time for Canadians to tell Conservatives to stop the obstruction. Let's build Canada together. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Your plan didn't work for Justin Trudeau. I don't know why they think it will work today. And earlier today, the Prime Minister tried to blame inflation on global factors, but all the other countries in the G7 have lower food inflation than Canada. The Liberal fuel standards tax didn't invade us from another country. That already adds 7 cents a litre and is set to rise to 17. The industrial Liberal carbon tax didn't come from away either. Working families who can't afford beef know that today's announcement won't even cover one trip to the grocery store. So why not stop trying recycling failed Trudeau policies and adopt common sense Conservative measures to scrap Liberal taxes on food?
I keep saying it. Andrew Scheer got better as soon as he was removed from up, and he's doing some pretty tough questions.
We've got the 2015 playbook here in 2026, and it's just not going to work. Canadians know that the environment, economy, trade, reconciliation, these are all related, and Canadians in Conservative ridings expect better than obstruction and speak and spell politics, where we get one of 5 answers to every problem. Listen, on this
I remember the speak and spell.
Affordability, economic growth, building big things, and this is a big moment for this country. I invite the members opposite to join us to see the world as it is and to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Canada first in the G7 for food inflation. Canada's food inflation is double the U.S. at 6.2%. Essentials like lettuce, beef, baby formula, and apples are all hit with Liberal inflation. Conservatives will fast-track any proposal that will reverse having the highest food inflation in the G7. That includes eliminating the industrial carbon tax, Liberal fuel standards, cutting red tape, and boosting competition. Will the Liberals introduce this immediately?
Oh, Yazraz, he practiced that speech. He didn't even look at it. He was like, he was doing his prayers, Our Father. He knew that one.
I can't understand why the opposition is so against that, Mr. Speaker. By taking action now, we're helping farmers manage essential costs, improving affordability, strengthening a more resilient food system, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to be affected by this, Mr. Speaker. It's going to help our domestic production, it's going to help our farmers and ranchers, and it's going to help our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary East. Giving Canadians the money back the Liberals took from them in the first place doesn't lower grocery costs. The Prime Minister can't blame global factors either, when all other G7 nations have lower food inflation than Canada does. Liberals raise taxes on farmers, fertilizer, food processors, all while doubling the deficit. Will the Liberals reverse these failed policies, or is having the highest food inflation in the G7 the only Liberal promise they're willing to keep?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Well, the party of no, Mr. Speaker, keeps standing in the way of bringing down the cost of living for Canadians. We're saying yes. Today, the groceries and essential benefit will give 12 million Canadians support to put food on the table, saving the average family of four almost $1,900 and the average individual almost $900. We're saying yes to supporting families. We're saying yes to making life more affordable. We're saying yes to real solutions. Why doesn't the party of no support Canadians and start saying yes as well?
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Sullivan.
The minister said a country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. And he's right. And Canadians are looking for the Prime Minister's words to match his actions. Now, tomorrow, Conservatives are going to introduce a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. It's going to cut taxes and it's going to let investors invest and builders build. The question is very simple at this critical time for our country. Will the government say yes, and will they support the Canadian Sovereignty Act?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is a bill before this Parliament that lets investors invest, that lets builders build, and in fact attracts $1 trillion, with a T, $1 trillion of investment in our country that will protect our workers and build our industries. It is the Budget Implementation Act. Now, Canadians in Conservative ridings are telling us they want this Parliament to work, that they want to endorse the Prime Minister's plan to create growth in this country. Can that member give us a date, just a date, where we will have third reading and pass the Prime Minister's plan for prosperity in Canada?
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems open to our proposal to move faster to help Canadians. That's fantastic. But he's also promised affordable groceries for Canadians. On this side of the House, we're eager to quickly pass proposals aimed at reversing food inflation, such as measures that stimulate competition in the food chain. Tomorrow, we'll table a motion to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Will your government table legislation to reduce the cost of groceries? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to rise and wish everyone a happy new year. And it's already a good year for Canadians. Today, more than 12 million Canadians will see their purchasing power increase. That's what they need to face rising prices in grocery stores, greater purchasing power, and that's our objective. I hope my colleagues will support us in this action. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we already said we'd pass this, but we need to go further. And it's time to reward businesses and workers who build and invest in Canada, and we must protect Canadian innovation. We are proposing creating a tax credit for reinvestment in Canada to stimulate domestic industrial activity, and protecting Canadian innovation by requiring the Minister of Industry to present a plan to prevent the sale of Canadian innovations, discoveries, and innovations to other countries. Will you support our motion and introduce a bill to this effect?
Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Bonjour. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, Mr. Speaker. We're working together on new measures to help families and to put food on the table. In my riding, a single mother of a family will see her purchasing power increase, and also there'll be new measures to help her buy shoes and pay for daycare after school. It won't just be helping people on my riding, but also it'll be the same thing on the other side of the House in their ridings. So I would ask them to work with us and inaudible. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it was on a sunny day in September 1759 that the beautiful partnership between the French and the English began. This beautiful friendship, born on the plains of Abraham, would give rise to moments filled with affection: the ban on French in schools, the hanging of the Patriots, the Durham Report, the execution of Louis Riel, the Quebec City riot during conscription, the War Measures Act, the Night of the Long Knives, and the failure of the Meech Lake Accord, and so on. Could it be that this Prime Minister is unfamiliar with the history of Quebecers and Francophones?
I think one of those was on another horrible country.
In Canada. The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to wish a Happy New Year to the Bloc, or their militant arm of the Parti Québécois. Well, I think what bothers them the most is the Prime Minister's message was a national one. But I'd like to ask them a question. Did they ask permission from Mr. Plamondon to ask their question? Because He's going to move on to something else. He is having an argument with the bonhomme of the Quebec Carnival.
I don't know.
Can't invent that.
This
The honourable
guy,
member for
yeah.
Drummond. Mr. Speaker, they're rewriting the facts. It's contagious and spreading through the entire Liberal caucus. And according to the Prime Minister, Montcalm declared on his deathbed, "I die disappointed because I will not live to see the surrender of English in Quebec." The truth is that we were conquered, and since then the federal government is just trying to keep us in line. But the Prime Minister has chosen to rewrite history, assuming that Quebecers do not know it. And instead of spouting nonsense about the Plains of Abraham and insulting our intelligence, what is the Prime Minister waiting for? To pick up a book and learn a bit more about Quebec. It's about time. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker.
The best cheese comes from Quebec.
Quebecers have been telling us out loud to work on affordability and help them make ends meet at the end of the month, to take efforts on rent, on lodging, and to protect our industries such as softwood lumber, aluminum, and in general, to prevent them from tariff threats in a very complex world while still protecting their culture and language, Mr. Speaker. And that is what the federal government and the Liberal Party are doing this year.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Stats Canada confirms what Canadian families already know at the checkout. Food inflation has jumped by 6.2% in the last year. Grocery prices are up 5%, and Canada now has the highest food inflation in the G7. Newfoundland and Labrador has the second highest food inflation rate in the entire country, and higher transportation costs mean local families are hit even harder. Conservatives are ready to fast-track measures to bring food prices down. So will the government eliminate the industrial carbon tax and the 17 cents a litre fuel standards tax so Canadians can afford the basics?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Speaker, and I wish the member opposite, the opposition member from Newfoundland and Labrador, Happy New Year. And I want to just give a couple of stats. The Canada Groceries and Essential Benefit, specific for our province. A family of four this year will get over $1,890, and then the next 4 years, $1,400 a year. A single person, $950 with the top-up, and then $700 going forward. Her constituents are telling me they want action, stop the obstruction, and work for the people.
The honourable member for Long Range Mountains.
We are ready to work with the government on real long-term solutions instead of recycled temporary Trudeau-era rebates. Canada has been called the food inflation capital of the G7. Mr. Speaker, that's real hardship. People back home ask me, how far does this have to go before it stops? The Prime Minister can't blame global factors when all other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada. It's a homegrown problem of high Liberal taxes. So will this government focus on actually bringing down food prices, or will it defend policies that make food more expensive?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, and I'll tell you what's recycled. And the tired notes that the Conservative members and from Newfoundland and Labrador as well just continue to repeat. The point is they consistently vote against support that help families, help the people that they talk about in their ridings, that I hear from, that want them to support. Stop the nonsense, work together, and let's grow Canada.
The member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is now the inflation capital of the G7. Food prices are rising faster than families can keep up, twice the rate of the U.S. And recycled Trudeau-era rebates do not fix the problem. Canadians can't eat the paper on which this Prime Minister's empty promises are written. Restaurants are being squeezed out of business with higher food costs, and Canadians are cutting back because they can't afford to eat. Conservatives are ready to work on long-term solutions Canadians can feel at the checkout, like cutting the industrial carbon tax and the fuel standard tax to bring prices down. Will the Prime Minister work with us, or does he consider the food bank the new order of fine dining for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, $1,900 per family is real money that will help Canadians pay for groceries, pay for schools, pay for their activities for their children, Mr. Speaker. Canadians in Conservative-held held ridings want to benefit from this support from our government. Why are the Conservatives blocking systematically every time we want to help Canadians?
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, it's expensive to eat in Canada, and it costs a lot more here than elsewhere. There's no other country in the G7 where it costs more to eat than in Canada. Ground beef, you can't afford it anymore. It's 70% more expensive. Apples are up by 10%. Lettuce by 13%. Oranges up by 15%. Ground coffee, 42%. Mr. Speaker, is the Liberal government in the tomato business? Because that's the only thing that's gone down. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker,
the tomato business.
A star on April Man. I'm not surprised to hear that question, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, I have a lot of admiration for that colleague, but he's a bit behind. He's a few days behind because now we have the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Young people are happy about it, Mr. Speaker, and I know that in his heart the member is happy that we have it as well. But is he going to rise in this House and help the 12 million Canadians vote in favor of that measure and say that the Liberal government is doing good things for Canadians? The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, you don't buy votes, you earn them. The most recent data shows that food inflation is up by 6.2%.
Yeah, the money's
first place in food inflation in the G7. The Prime Minister can't blame the rest of the planet. This is a homegrown problem caused by high Liberal taxes on our farmers. Mr. Speaker, will the government immediately commit to tabling a law which will eliminate the hidden taxes on food?
Greenhouse buildings should be, you know, in Canada. If you grow and sell in Canada, there should be a secondary industry that doesn't pay taxes on buildings. I don't know.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to ensure that my colleague understands that we're here to help Canadians, not just with food, but also with the cost of living. For example, daycare costs. Costs that are hard to plan for. Mr. Speaker, we ask our colleagues to follow what their leader said in his open letter. I ask them to be open to working with the government to help 12 million Canadians. Please.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Mr. Speaker, when I was back home in my riding, I had many conversations with people in my community about how important the school food program was to families in my riding of South Shore St. Margaret's. Can the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature please update the House on how the government will deliver real, near-term relief for Canadians facing higher costs of living? Thank you.
Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think it's great because the member from South Shore St. Mark's is going to be able to go back home this weekend and talk to families about the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. That is going to help a family of four with almost $1,900 a year. That's going to help over 12 million people right across the country. It's her hard work that's delivering these results. Not only that, we have made the National School Food Program permanent, the dental benefit supporting families, Canada Child Care, and the Canada Child Benefit. There's such a long list. I could go on forever. We're going to continue working for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Eating healthily has become a luxury, Mr. Speaker. The numbers hurt. The price of beef is up by 16.8%, lettuce 12.8%, apples 10%. Under this government, preparing a simple salad has become a major investment, Mr. Speaker. Even coffee's 41% more expensive. When will the government stop taxing our farmers and our truckers? And will it commit today to cutting the industrial carbon tax and the tax on fuel standards? The Honourable Minister of Health. Well, I would like to thank my colleague for her question. And as Minister of Health, I absolutely want Canadians to eat well. And that is why we've put in place this measure today that will give Canadians more money in their pockets to help them get through these difficult times. So, as I was saying, in my riding, a family of four needs this help, and they'll receive almost $1,900 this year. So we are taking measures to help Canadians transition through this difficult time. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal announcement this morning is just a Band-Aid. It's not a real solution for the 2.2 million Canadians who are going to continue to go to food banks. Canada has the highest food inflation in the G7 because of Liberal taxes. And it's killing local businesses. 7,000 restaurants closed in 2025. 4,000 more will probably close this year. Will the government eliminate the tax that is making transport more expensive and making food more expensive? The Honourable Secretary of State for Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are helping Canadians with the cost of living by reducing costs with a rebate of almost $1,900 for a family of four. That's on top of other investments like the tax cut for 22 million Canadians and a savings of $800 for children with young kids who benefit from the school food program. We're there to help Canadians and families go forward. The Conservative Party should stop with these games of obstruction in Parliament and support these initiatives.
Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, if we judge the Prime Minister by prices at the grocery store, as he said, he's failed. Canada's food inflation now sits at 6.2%, the highest in the G7. Conservatives are ready to fast-track real relief by scrapping the industrial carbon tax, eliminating the ever-increasing fuel standards tax, boosting competition in grocery stores, and cutting red tape for farmers. When will the Prime Minister stop offering Band-Aid solutions and work with Conservatives to bring food prices down once and for all?
Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit will put food directly onto the tables of hardworking Canadian families. And not just a few, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about 12 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. But only Conservatives are willing to stand in the way of affordability for families that need a little bit of help, Mr. Speaker. This Liberal government has the backs of Canadians. Well, that Conservative leader turned his back on helping Canadians a long, long time ago. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know that Conservative leader is obsessed with his grip on power right now and probably can't focus on much else. But if he could focus on what Canadians need and helping them out at the grocery store, we could use his vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, enough with the temporary and recycled Trudeau-era rebates, and enough with blaming global factors when all the other countries have lower food price inflation than Canada. Yep. This is a homegrown problem, and we need long-term solutions. My recent visit to Simcoe Hall Food Bank with the Conservative leader was yet another reminder that more working families are struggling and visiting food banks. Will the Prime Minister stop treating the House of Commons as the House of Elites and finally work with Conservatives to bring food prices down for Canadians?
Yeah, monopolies and so on are an issue.
Mr. Speaker, it's always pretty frustrating when Conservatives talk about elitism when they're talking down supports for hardworking Canadians, Mr. Speaker. 12 million Canadians are going to benefit from the Canadian Groceries and Essentials benefit, Mr. Speaker. And from a personal perspective, when my hardworking single mom got that benefit 4 times a year, that meant running shoes for me and my brother. That meant guitar lessons for me and my brother. That meant fresher food and maybe a trip to Swiss Chalet, Mr. Speaker. But those Conservatives have never cared about affordability or lower-income families, Mr. Speaker. They're only here to help their rich oil and gas friends with this nonsense on hidden taxes that doesn't exist, Mr. Speaker.
He had some pretty decent points. Hey, everyone wants that money back. He said 12 million Canadians will get it.
This is the highest food inflation in the G7. The government's response has relied largely on short-term relief measures that may ease pressure temporarily, but do nothing to address the underlying drivers of rising food costs. Food affordability requires deeper structural action. Conservatives have put forward practical solutions, including eliminating the industrial carbon tax and fuel standards tax, boosting competition in the grocery sector, and cutting red tape for farmers. So will the government work with Conservatives to deliver lasting relief for Canadian families?
Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Day one, our
our focus has been on lowering costs for families and putting money in their pockets. Today's announcement of the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit will give Canadians the relief they need. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, we have delivered a tax cut. We have protected the Canada Child benefit and grew it. We reduced childcare costs. We have cut the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker. We've delivered dental care. Building Canada homes. We're building low affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. Made the National School Food Program permanent. Mr. Speaker, my question is, voters in Vaughan want this stuff. Why is the member obstructing? Get out of the way.
The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster Meadow Lake.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if those measures worked, Canadians would actually be able to afford their groceries. Lettuce is up 12%, beef 16%, apples 10%, and even baby formula is up another 6%. After 10 years of Liberal inflation and taxes, Canada now leads the G7 with the highest food inflation. Conservatives are ready to fast-track solutions. Eliminate the industrial carbon tax, cut the fuel standards tax, boost grocery competition, and cut red tape for farmers. Will the Liberal government introduce legislation to implement these solutions and to work with us to finally lower the price of food for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern and Arctic Affairs. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure which Saskatchewan people that member is speaking with, Mr. Speaker, but the Saskatchewan people that I'm speaking to, they talk about the $10 a day daycare. They talk about the reduction of GSTs on home. They talk about the school food program. Now they'll talk about the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit, $11.7 billion that'll help many Saskatchewan families, Mr. Speaker. Saskatchewan families don't ask for much, just a fair shot and some breathing room at the end of the month, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Oxford.
Liberal laws ended mandatory jail time for extortionists and released repeat violent offenders back on our streets. Since then, violent crime has doubled and extortion is up over 350%. Businesses, media studios, and homes are being shot at. Literally, we're seeing bullets fly through the bedrooms of our children. Canadians are terrified, and they feel like they're the ones on house arrest while the criminals walk free. So when will this Liberal government stop making excuses, work with us, take action, and protect Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, at the outset,
you got to cut the funding, and it's fentanyl.
The RCMP for their work in the arrest of Ryan Wedding in collaboration with the FBI, Mr. Speaker. Ryan Wedding was the #1 wanted person in the United States.
Wedding was arrested by Americans.
That law enforcement in Canada, working with the United States, can achieve. To the member's question, Mr. Speaker, we have 6 bills in front of the House that deal with public safety. The obstruction of the Conservative Party in passing not a single one of them is atrocious, Mr. Speaker. I invite the member opposite to pass these bills today.
The Sinaloa cartel burned Wedding and gave him up.
And it's a full-on crisis. In Surrey alone,
can't take any credit.
police are responding to more than one case a day. Families and small businesses are terrified. Truckers are feeling the heat, and people feel abandoned by Justice Canada. After years of Liberal promises, the results speak for themselves. Crime is up and criminals walk free. Bill C5 and C75 strip mandatory minimums and entrench catch-and-release policies. When will this government work in good faith with the Conservatives to eliminate mandatory minimums for extortionists and repeal the catch-and-release laws that are hurting our country?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it is easy to make mistakes when you read a question that was handed to you from your party's whip, rather than actually do research to understand the facts on the ground. If the honourable member actually surveyed the statistics on violent crime in Canada, he would see the last 2 years there has been a reduction of crime in this country. The bills he points to actually made it harder for someone to get bail if they were charged with offences touching on intimate partner violence, and made house arrest impossible for serious charges, including advocating genocide, torture, and murder. Mr. Speaker, we have put forward a plan that's going to treat violent, repeat criminals with serious laws that help protect communities against crime. I hope the Conservatives...
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
The number one killer in the country is fentanyl. Nothing done on it.
Every single day in the Lower Mainland.
Over a
These
barrel,
are real
they
consequences
hired
of the
this
Liberals'
guy,
failure
the czar.
to take crime seriously. Families and businesses across Abbotsford and Surrey are terrified, and entire communities are living in fear. It's time for the Liberals to fix their soft on crime laws that have failed to keep innocent Canadians safe. When will the Liberals stop delaying, finally work with us, and restore mandatory minimum for extortionists and repeal their catch and release laws C5 and C75?
Right, the Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada, someone who commits extortion can serve up to 25 years in prison.
That's right.
We have the laws in place, Mr. Speaker, but we're going to improve on those laws. That's why we put forward a bail and sentencing reform. I'm glad to see that it's progressing through committee. But one law, in fact, Mr. Speaker, that can really help in these cases is lawful access. It was the second bill we presented in this House. The Conservatives have been obstructing it all along. We had several different summits across this country, and what did law enforcement ask for? They asked for lawful access, Mr. Speaker. Stop the obstruction.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, in Beauport-Limoilou, as across the country, the cost of living is too high for many families. Our government has already taken concrete steps, such as cutting the consumer carbon tax, putting in place a tax cut for 20 million middle-class Canadians, and cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. But we know that we can and should do more to help Canadians deal with inflation. Can the Minister of Finance please inform this House of concrete measures that we are taking to support families in Beauport-Limoilou and across the country?
No.
The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for that excellent question, because he's really shown Canadians all of the measures that we've taken to help people. And today, Mr. Speaker, it's 12 million Canadians across the country who can celebrate because we've put in place the new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. Mr. Speaker, this is going to make a real difference for families. It's going to allow the mom of a single family, to buy food, clothes for her kids. It's going to help Canadians across the country. We're always going to be there to help Canadians, and we're always going to build strong communities.
Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, last week was a devastating one for forestry workers and their families on Vancouver Island. Just outside Port McNeill, the Atlee chip plant announced it would be permanently closed. Curtailments announced in Ladysmith and Saltaire, and at the iconic Chemainus sawmill where my grandfather worked for 20 years. These were good-paying jobs, the type that built communities up and down Vancouver Island and right across BC. This government promised to stand with these workers, to have their backs. Instead, mills keep on closing, workers laid off. When will this government's actions and results finally live up to its rhetoric and its words?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government stands with forestry workers. We've announced $2.5 billion in supports. We have a task force active right now looking at additional supports. I was in Prince George last week. Members in Conservative ridings want results, and I want to tell you a little bit of a story, Mr. Speaker. Last time we talked about this in the House of Commons, we got suggestions from the NDP. We put them into effect. We got suggestions from the Bloc. We put them into effect. We got no suggestions from the Conservatives. We want their help. We want to support this sector. We're tired of hearing noun, verb, and no solution every time these guys open their mouth.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Here's a suggestion, Mr. Speaker. Drop the ideological 30 by 30 that stops forestry workers from doing their job. I appreciate my colleagues' comments on this issue. I do appreciate the government's promises of support, but forestry workers in my riding and across BC can't eat Liberal promises, and they can't pay their mortgage with a Liberal speech. They need action. They need results. They need this government to actually deliver something. Literally thousands of jobs have been lost. How many more mills have to close? How many more people have to be put out of work before this Liberal government steps up and takes this crisis?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
30 by 30. I can't think of a more out-of-touch comment. They're clearly not talking to people on the ground. These are not the challenges the sector faces. We need solutions, not obstruction from the members
members opposite. I am welcoming them to work with us. We want to help them out. We need their help because they are the people on the ground representing Conservative ridings with Mills, and we're not hearing from them. They deserve better, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kenora,
Pierre Falls Sawmill has been shut down since October. The Ignace Mill is expected to close in March, and now 150 people will be affected by the closure of a line at Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper. Mr. Speaker, every day more closures are announced, and these are good-paying jobs for hard-working Canadians that are now gone. The government's rhetoric about supporting workers is not matching the reality of the workers who are losing their jobs. Conservatives stand ready in this House to support government actions that will save forestry jobs. So, Mr. Speaker, when will we finally see some action from this Liberal government?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, forestry, mill jobs, the forest sector in Canada is part of the very fibre of our country, part of the very fibre of our communities. The Parliamentary Secretary just outlined the many measures that we are putting in place to make sure that we protect those workers and those facilities against what is an ill-advised trade war that only increases the costs of housing in the United States and elsewhere. We're going to put those people to work producing wood, mass timber, building homes, Mr. Speaker. We're going to do that in the face of Conservative.
The honourable member for Labrador.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians have a proud history of standing with our allies during combat missions and during peacekeeping exercises. In my riding of Labrador, home of Canadian Forces Base Goose Bay, many families serve our country or stand behind our loved ones who do. When Canada's contributions are mischaracterized or minimized, it's important to set the record straight. Can the Minister of Veteran Affairs tell the House how Canada has stood alongside our allies and how we properly commemorate and recognize our veterans? Thank you.
Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague from Labrador for
Does
the
everyone
question.
remember the Veterans Affairs officer who told a soldier veteran to go maid himself? Literally, that's what he said. He says, "Why don't you go maid?"
Soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice.
Wow.
30 Canadian soldiers received the U.S. Bronze Star for their bravery. The Canadian Armed Forces have and continue to make invaluable contributions around the world. As a nation, Canada will always stand with our allies, including the U.S. As Canadians, we stand behind the women and men in uniform who serve.
I'm more frustrated as we have some major issues in this country, and our politicians aren't even attempting to try to tackle them. Useless platitudes, and it's making me,
Whiskey is proudly made in Gimli, Manitoba, using Manitoba grains and pure interlake water. Unfortunately, Manitoba employees and farmers are worried because the government of Ontario is threatening to pull Crown Royal off the shelves of their liquor stores. The Prime Minister incorrectly claimed he has torn down interprovincial trade barriers when in fact he's been sitting on the sideline, and his silence on Ontario's threat to Manitoba is deafening. Will the Liberals stand up for Canadian jobs and pass the Conservatives' Canadian Sovereignty Act to remove barriers to interprovincial free trade?
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by wishing colleagues, of course, a Happy New Year, and particularly our friend from Manitoba who just asked the question, to thank the Conservative Party for their support last June in passing federal legislation in this House, Mr. Speaker, which did exactly that, eliminated all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. Now, Mr. Speaker, the challenge is to work with our partners in the provinces. Good news, the Prime Minister has the Premiers for dinner in Ottawa on Wednesday, an all-day meeting on Thursday, and we will be discussing exactly those issues of continuing to remove those barriers.
I haven't heard from that fella in a while. He must be having some negotiations. Oh, an NDP here.
Country cannot wait until June to get help with their groceries. In 2022, the House passed legislation and there was an emergency payment done in weeks. Instead of making Canadians wait for months, will the Prime Minister work with the NDP to get help for Canadians immediately? And
Mr. Speaker, if they are interested in lowering the rate for groceries, will they please take the GST off all grocery essentials, finally impose a price tag and tax excess profits?
Oh.
Canadians getting gouged by big corporate
All
investments.
GST off of food. Well, that would be a help because all of the manufactured food, eh?
Emergency management and community
Yeah.
resilience.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Prime Minister introduced the new Canada Groceries and Essential Benefits. I look forward to returning to Alberta this weekend and sharing with my constituents that a family of 4 can receive up to almost $1,900 to help pay for groceries and other essentials. This is the kind of support Canadians are looking for. As Canadians, we look after each other. We're asking the opposition members to help us do just that.
I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the recipients of the 2025 Governor General's History Awards.
Ooh, history. Hurrah! The history awards. Children? No? History awards. That's nice. There we go. At least he's not, the last guy. All right, so that's question period. I'm not that bitter. I just feel personally. Who else? Okay, so it'll be empty house. McKinnon, I think he's pretty good. He's pretty good questions and stuff like that. Look, he's talking to Scheer right now. Look at Scheer throwing his hands around. Caputo. Caputo got great cheese. They got the best cheese. Hamilton, they got the best cheese place there. Ooh, I shouldn't say it. Actually, some guy told me not to mention that. I don't know why. This is good cheese. Maybe because they don't want the price to go up. Or I don't know. So that'll be the last time I mention it. The question period was pretty good. What do you guys think about it? But this is my big thing: is these issues in Canada. They to me, the way the politicians are acting is very similar to how it was in America fairly recently. Like, they said, oh, we can't, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do about the border. And then in 3 days, Trump gets it shut down. So it's just they're giving us useless platitudes, and they're not fixing the problem. Like, why don't they just say, you know what? I don't want to fix this problem. We don't think it's a problem. We have other things to focus on. But this idea that, oh, well, we just can't do anything. We can't bring housing down. Nothing we can do. They should be maybe saying, hey, like, the real reason. We're concerned that if we are to do this, the housing market will crash. I believe the way to do that is you have to do a housing program that's specifically targeted to new Canadian homebuyers. They get a really good deal to alleviate the problem, and only a certain amount in certain markets. So it's almost like a secondary market, and it's a project. A definition of a project has a definite start and finish. That's, you know what I mean? Project management, PMP, right? Project manager professional. It's in the cycle. But that's the definition of it. So they need to say that so it doesn't affect the market. And the homes that they build are tiny homes. And I don't even think homes. I think condos. Not homes, like not houses, because it's a problem to fix. It's not a problem to make it perfect. You know what I mean? What is that saying I put in there, Voltaire's? The best is the enemy of the good. And that's it. So we just got to put out these, and then there's this new company or new policies that we can build. These, I think, 7-story buildings out of wood, which you couldn't do before, but they have a new engineered plan, and it's approved in Canada. They're doing it in Ottawa. You can Google it. It's really good. And these things are not being done in this country. And enough. And this is what I mean. So you have a secondary market, because I don't believe that anyone wants to see the housing market crash so everyone has a home. That's just not a good thing. It's okay that homes are high. The problem is people can't get in it. And maybe the program, in 15, 20 years, the problem will fix itself, because we won't have as many percentage-wise of people coming in. But right now, it's such a problem. It's just, it's just basically people just will live in smaller homes. It's not like they're going to buy somewhere else. No, they're just not going to get into a home. They're going to be cramping in. And so my belief is they need to alleviate the problem. But the problem is they will. My belief is that no government in Canada will give to the working class. They're like, no. Wait for this. This is what I'm going to say. This is where I'm going to explode on it. I already have some prepackaged thoughts on it. Once AI really kicks in about 3 years, we're going to see a white-collar crush. It's already happening in the States. White-collar, all these companies, the tech companies, they're not hiring as much. They're all going to AI. So white-collars, what they're doing is they're just not hiring. And what's going to happen is going to build up. These university students build up. And then the jobs are going to start getting taken by, because AI is white collar. Right? I know I use AI all the time to teach me things. A Symposium by Plato. It taught me. It's just brilliant. It's awesome. So once it comes for those jobs, watch the government, because it's white collar people. They're not going to be told to go code or whatever the hell the job is of that day. They're probably going to get a huge chunk of money, because they're the great washed. And this, to me, will be the contract will be broken as soon as that happens. And they give out money, tons of billions, $100 billion, to save white collar workers. And while blue collar people couldn't afford a home for the last 20 years, they will have breached contracts. In my opinion, the government, there's not like you could. I'm not even talking about doing a protest, but it's time to vote like the extreme party, NDP. To me, I don't believe in going to the streets will help or protest. I honestly don't believe protests help. Protests, in my opinion, a lot of times what they do is they elevate certain people to get into politics. That's a lot of times they get sometimes absorbed by other people. Not to protest. I'm not against the protest, and that's not. I really have found they get co-opted by groups and people. Sometimes negative. Usually they get pushed aside pretty quick. But usually it's by a highly educated, someone with a master's degree who wants to get into politics, who all of a sudden is leading this protest to save the long-horned beetle or whatever, Japanese beetle, to save the Japanese beetle, right? And that's kind of a joke, but that's my problem with it. But I believe that that's where we're headed right now. And if in a government that won't work on people's homes, will give billions of dollars to fix a problem that the universities will have, because it essentially is a university problem. If they're teaching people to go to school and then they don't have a job at the end of it to go to, the universities will have problems, and then also white collar people getting fired who have a larger ear, politicians' ear. As a plumber, they're not going to answer my call. But if I was a lawyer, they would. He's a lawyer. He's not nuts. Oh, he's a plumber. He's stupid. He's crazy. Leave him alone. So that's exactly what it is. We have a issue with our politics in this country for 50 years, that the politicians have focused too much on the white collar and not enough on the blue collar, and gutting jobs. When politicians in the States, and this is both of us, are saying people don't want to do factory jobs. What? That's what I want to do. That's what I wanted to do as a kid. I was like, factory 9 to 5. It's not what my work was. My life. I honestly wanted to work in steel, work in the steel industry, the big furnaces, and that's what I wanted. Not everyone wants to be a lawyer or a doctor. I found that those. I won't go into that. I ended up going in the military because the factories were gone. But a third of the people I knew in high school with, blue collar kids, you know what I mean? Blue collar families. They left a third, gone. And, this is like one of the richest parts of the country, Niagara Falls, I do believe that we need to bring in our tourist industry could help. That deal with China bringing in tourism, that can be good. I'm from Niagara Falls, so I literally have seen the benefit of it. It's made Niagara Falls beautiful tourism. It's paid for good taxes, and it's helped preserve land, because tourism and preserving land kind of go hand in hand. But I honestly believe that we need a new type of politician to come in, and Trump is the start of it, and he's only half of it. You know what I mean? He's for the working class more, like by eliminating overtime tax and money going old age securities. This is huge, and he even said, my Republican people were against it. They said they weren't going to vote against it. He's like, well, I had to tell them this is a new party. We're for the people. We have to. And this is another example, and I know I sound like I'm complaining, but it's only a complaint because they won't do anything about it. If they could do something about it quick. We have the most free trade deals of any other country, but we still sell 80%, 76% of our goods to America. And what that shows me is all of these free trade deals, they really weren't set up to help us export. They were here to help our wealthy individuals. Because I looked at importing, I need to hire a lawyer. I had to hire, you're going to have to hire a lawyer to import. So I already have to have money or a business or something like that. It's not some guy starts up a business easy. And starting a business in Canada has become more difficult. Not that it was ever easy, but basically these free trade deals help people import. That's it. Oh yeah, we can go. We can get this product and that product for no taxes from this country. So that doesn't help manufacturing jobs and this and that, because I can get a cheap comb or a cheap electronic device from any country. I don't want to pick out a country, and not a sellout to them. There's no programs. There's nothing. And hey, maybe they made these deals with the intent to. But then when you look at what a person should do, if you make a free trade deal in 6 months and 1 year, you look at it and you're like, well, we made this free trade deal and we're not selling anything to Chile. We're not even selling chilies, or manufacturing equipment or nothing. Well, what's going on? We made it, but we're importing tons. They would have to. Then it's like, okay, we got to make some. We have to make some incentives or some kind of a desk or whatever to help us export to them, to balance it. But this idea, this whole idea of every politician, like I said, this is 40 years, 50 years that's been going on. They're only concerned about the investor class and not thinking the majority of the easy taxpayer. Hey, if you're a construction worker or you're a factory worker, you pay taxes in that country. You don't hide it. You can't hide it. The company takes taxes and gives it to the government before you get your check. These are good things for a government. But governments are like, no, we're going to worry about the rich guy who's going to have a lobbyist and take me to dinner and la, and he's like me, he speaks like me, not so cussy, and we're going to worry about that person for 50 years. And that, to me, is the biggest failure of the West. It happened in Europe. Europe has gone nuts, and Europe is about to get a reckoning. It happened in Canada, and it's happened in the States. And Trump is the first to change it. And I don't think he's doing it extremely, but look at the backlash he's getting. So I understand why a politician doesn't care about the little people. Not only the little people, I mean the working class. They just don't care about them. And like they said, like there's a politician said, they all agreed. They're all nodding their heads. People don't want to work in a factory. Well, that's not true. That's not true in any shape, way, or form. I know I seem on a rant because it seems that there's no party. The Conservatives have no major plans. They need to reevaluate how it is to lead in the country it is today. You have to look at what are the conditions on the ground today, not what your party stands for in a theory in a bubble up in the nowhere land. You got to look at, hey, well, wait, yeah, we want to have the wealthy, this and that help, but we want to have companies build homes, but they're not going to build homes for the people, so it won't get fixed. So you have to change your ideological ideas to fix the problem. And I don't think any party right now is doing it. I was hoping Pierre and the Conservatives would, but their plan to me, I'm sorry, it won't fix the problem. The Liberal plan, according to a government department that does it, the AG, 12 years, maybe. And that's 12 years the housing crisis will be fixed if we have zero population growth. Well, we're having still millions of people come. So 20 years, that's their plan. And the Conservative plan probably would have built less houses, according to other people. So this is this type of useless platitudes, we can't close the border attitude. It's just basically the biggest problem with the West right now. We just don't have it. And I think if it continues, the only way forward is you literally have to only get in blue-collar people as politicians. And I don't mean any one of them. Like, if you're a factor, I vote for you. Because they get it. Because thus far, as everyone's recognized, that Canada's in trouble. And their solutions are, well, let's just go give Stellantis $1 billion, and they left. Let's go get this. Let's not. In America, how they do it is they have smaller businesses in the States. It's easier. Like, there's like all kinds of programs in New York State. They'll give you like a very small amount of money, just enough to live, for 2 years. Maybe it's different now. I don't know if it's the same, but 2 years. So it gives you enough time to start a business, because they know small businesses are the most inefficient. So they hire more people. That's a beautiful thing, because it's about getting people working. It's about keeping society going forward. It's not all about the 5% who own 80% of the cash getting more. Remember, this is a freaking statistic that no one says it. I don't know why I'm the only one who says it. It's not disputed. 80% of the cash flow in our economy in the States was in the hands of the working class, which is the people that made, not the very lowest, but the middle class. And now the 5%, the top 5% earners own 80% of that cash, and they're not sharing. And when you have government after government after government, politician after politician after politician, only worry about helping business leaders and large, the 5% earners, you're just compounding the problem. Basically, the way I see it is you're turning us to communists, because eventually we'll get to a problem, and then you'll have riots in the street, which I don't agree with, protests, they'll turn to riot, and then you'll get, well, let's do what they're doing, Anyway, I really don't know anything. I'm just thinking my belief is the Liberals are going, they're just going head first on the old issues that they were talking about. I'm a bad person because I'm a construction worker. That's where they're going to go. And that's where they seem to be going. They made this board of home housing industry that has actually lowered less homes because they're worried about investors. No one's going to invest in Canada right now. The States has really good conditions to invest. It's going to be very difficult to get it. And them focusing and not putting the $100 billion, $200 billion is 20 years the housing crisis will get fixed. 12 years, they said, if we have no immigration. So I believe that we're going to have CUSMA. The Liberals are going to take care of CUSMA, and I believe Mark Carney will be the best to lead that. I'm a little bit, I don't think that their other policies are doing any good, but the negotiation part with Trump, I think he's our best, he's the best card we got. There's nothing but after that, I don't think they'll last. I don't think that any politician they will have proven that they haven't done anything. Most likely the CUSMA deal will be a little bit tougher, Trump said it's going to be tougher. I don't think it's going to be bad. I don't think it's going to be disastrous like everyone says. But they're probably going to demand more access. They want more market access. That's what they keep saying. So they want market access. We'll probably have to give up some sacred cows, pun intended. I don't know. I don't even want to lead in any direction. But it most likely will be really tough. And Carney's going to do that. But after that, we're going to look at everyone's going to look at the balance sheet, and it's like, well, inflation of food has gone up. You made a deal with China, and now beef that went up 70% is going to go up another, probably doubly, and probably another 70%. You know what I mean? Because supply and demand. There's just all of the major problems in the country. Manufacturing isn't going to increase. Yeah, you had a pretty good quarter. You had these things. The ports, they didn't worry about the ports. They haven't done anything in the Arctic. Like, the military can't hire. Every single blue-collar problem has not even been dealt with. And when he said the speeds are going to happen, if we don't do anything in the Arctic, I guarantee you it's not going to be Trump, because it's going to be next 10 years we're going to have problems with the Arctic. If we don't set up Churchill, put the power lines, and claim it, and help the people up there. It's not easy up there. You know what I mean? It's not easy to live. They're living on diesel power to generate. You want to be green? How about getting the power lines so these people up there are not spouting diesel generators to power the city? And they need a lot of heat up there, a lot of waste. And these are investments that the country needs to do, and then maybe bring in some small amount of people. But this, I believe, is a government expense that needs to be done, or use it or lose it. And we're really, really at the point. Greenland is going to be a success. All the rhetoric from the left is just right-left rhetoric. Any politician that leans right hasn't said a word about the Greenland, because they're again, we know it's already done. They're gonna give money and it's done. It's but it's just left-right rhetoric. And once that's done, our next president's gonna be like, well, my legacy. What about Baffin Island? Why don't we buy that off of Canada? You know what I mean? And there it goes. If we aren't the ones, someone else is going to come in, and that's unfortunate. That we have politicians who are more concerned about bringing investment in, which we're not going to get the first investor. We're getting second, third. Deals with UAE and Qatar are smart. I think that's country by country deals. But bringing in investor companies, no. I think that's the stupidest. They own 80% of the cash flow already. When the blue collar people are really hurting in this country, it's become a white collar country, and everyone who knows anything that remember what happened the last shutdown. We couldn't get masks. I don't know how many billions of dollars we gave to China to get their Astro whatever, their needle, and then we didn't get it. Not that we realized after the pandemic that we need to manufacture certain things in this country, and how many years on, it still hasn't been done. Anyway, I shouldn't go on. Oh. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised on that, DAC. It's just basically we're really Alan? What is that here? Isn't it an L? Shouldn't be? Or does he want my name? It's basically we're having a big issue with our politicians and our lobbyists only concerned about a small percentage of people and their solution for healthcare costs aren't to lower the cost, find efficiencies and stuff like that. It's mating people. And like I know from my personal life, I was going to doctor from, I got nothing. I got 6, 7, 8, 10 visits. How much money is this cost? Nothing. Where's my advocate? You're gonna have to have an advocate. I got to go hire them. So there's a big waste, a huge waste. But they're not worried about that. They're worried about wait times. No, worried about outcomes. So I took care of my own. I literally am like an essential oil I bought the German monogram book of this. It's about herbal thing, and literally herbal medicine. I live in Canada. I had herbal medicine myself, and worked. But it's a headache. I had spinal, and so every 6 hours to heal my spine, and I couldn't do certain stretches. This is like spinal injury, and so this is the kind of country that we're in right now. That's we're like, we'll just end you, and we don't worry about doctors getting better at their job. It's just, no, we're just gonna maid you. That's elitist thinking. They're like way the heck up in the stratosphere, and it's hurting family. It's just that type of it's like a spiritual thing. When you do that stuff, it doesn't just go away. That affects a society. At least according to the philosophers, the Greek philosophers said that they treated ethics and politics as the same thing, because they believed, and I believe them as right, that a community, a city, a country, a province, blah blah, is also like a human being, an entity. They are both the same. So the ethics of a human need to be the same ethics of the community leader, of the provincial leader, of the federal. And we don't have that anymore. We are Machiavellian, and it's all tell them what they need to hear, placate them with $100 a year, and then move on. But the thing is they've done that for 50 years for so long that we're at a problem. And the big thing is the ethics of a community. You know what I mean? People. It's just like a person. You lose a person, especially that way. You know what I mean? And we're having all the reports come out. Now mental health is coming in it. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. You can have someone on a mental health thing. You give them a pill, and they go to the doctor, and la-di-da. They're in la-la land. And then stamped it, then we push them out. That's... I think we're already in a slippery slope, and our country has lost our political ethics. And I don't think that blue-collar people have higher ethics. I do believe that there are really good ethics when university educated. But they just don't care enough about the people, and they're listening to these upper stratosphere opinions of tell your people to eat bugs because cow farts cause problems with the ozone layer. When you have a solution that doesn't affect you, and affects someone else, you basically are, you know what I mean, you're putting it on someone else. If you have a solution that affects you as pairs everyone else. But that's it. It's like, we'll just charge another dollar taxes on every Canadian, and then we'll get the money. Instead of, hey, there's a lot of these companies that are, maybe we should up the permit price for this. Maybe it doesn't take 30 years. I'm just saying that... We have major issues in this country, and our politicians are talking about the dust. And until we have politicians that do that, I don't even know. We know where the country's headed. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. I'm ranting. I know I feel upset because I just glanced at what the politicians did, and Iran just did this, gave them everyone $7, and it helped people go and riot. And then you just did the same thing? We're going to give you a couple bucks? Yeah, it'll be good when it comes. But I honestly, while they're doing other things to make the price of beef go up. Beef's going up. That's it. It's going up. We're selling to China because I can't expect a beef seller, whatever, the beef market, to sell in Canada for a less price than I can sell it to a Chinese company. They're not in business to save the country, right? You can't expect a company to save the country. When you've got problems, you don't get them. You make conditions that are right to help the people. That's my opinion. And we have investors are the only people that this country is concerned about. Top heavy, and it probably won't get any better. They're going to continue to divide us and call people like me toxic. Harder to get into university when university's about to get hit. We're just having a lot of issues, and I don't believe we're dealing with it. I keep repeating myself because I'm talking. Okay. Hey, things could get better. Look at it.